Before we get started, a quick shout out to our sponsors that are keeping us going through what's probably our busiest time of year. We are right in the thick of championship season. We've got the WA Pole Championships coming up on the 15th of August in Perth, then straight into the ACT New South Wales and Tasmanian Pole Championships on the 22nd of August in Canberra. If you've been thinking about coming along, this is your sign. Whether you're a competitor, supporter, or you've never seen a pole competition before, these shows are really something special. The performances are unbelievable, the production is huge, and it's honestly one of the best nights out. Tickets are available now, so don't leave it until the last minute. We'd absolutely love to have you there. Now let's get into part 2 of our long-awaited episode with the incredible pole pioneer, Tammy Morris. Well, let's speak about that, shall we? Because this is really interesting. Now, all I know, I've been told, and Felix doesn't know this at all, but you were the stripper to break up Ben Affleck and J.Lo the very first time they were engaged. Tell us that story.
Well, okay, where do I begin? I was working at Brandy's in Vancouver, which was iconic. Like it was the Studio 54 of the late 90s, early 2000s. So, every night there would be movie stars in there. Like every single night. There'd be hockey players, movie stars, the girls would come up and be like, yeah, so-and-so's down there tonight. And it wasn't a big deal. It was like so crazy. And so I had met Christian Slater and Tara Reid and a whole bunch of movie stars, and they were coming in there. They were shooting something, and by that time it was so normal that at least I wasn't really a fangirl. I was just normal. So I think they liked that about me. So they were like, hey, do you want to come over and party with us afterwards? Bring some of the girls. And I was like, okay. So we went over to Christian Slater's house, and he's like, yeah, my friend Ben is coming over too. So Ben Affleck shows up. Well, come on. I mean, they were so big at that time that the paparazzi was following Ben Affleck everywhere that he went. So, little did we know inside, here we are partying our faces off. We're getting naked. We're whatever, just being strippers. Not that, I mean that in we were just having fun. We were just partying, and we were continuing to do maybe some lap dances and stuff at the house, at the private party. So, announced to us, there is paparazzi all outside. We don't really know. So Ben Affleck asked me to do a dance for him. So I do a dance for him. I do a lap dance for him. And he does something extremely creepy. So I don't know. How much detail should I get into?
All of it. We want all of it.
I was bent over, and he literally grabbed my hips and licked straight up my vag. And I was horrified for multiple reasons. So I turned around, and again, because I'm not fangirl, I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm not going to say anything because he's Ben Affleck. I turned around and I was like, whoa. I was like, listen, first of all, I'm a stripper. You don't know where I've been. Why would you do that? And I was like, and the dance is over. You cannot do that without consent. It doesn't matter if it's in the club or outside of the club. That's not okay. And so the dance was kind of over. He went off with someone else. I don't even know what happened after that. We continued to party throughout the night. I think we left at 4:00 in the morning, and all of a sudden all these flashes, and we're like, oh my gosh. So it was really crazy, because then, I got to work at Brandy's the next day. I get out of my car, and there's people just following me, a whole group of paparazzi. And they're like, Portia was my stage name. Portia, what happened last night? What happened at the, following me around? It was insane. I've never experienced it before. And they are relentless. I mean, relentless. I would drive into my underground, wait for the gate to close, and all of a sudden, cockroaches, they would come out from between the cars, and they'd be like, Portia. I'd be like, how did you get in here? And so,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, they completely harassed me, and they wore me down, and they got my phone number somehow. I'd go to eat in a restaurant. They'd be sitting at another table. They're absolutely relentless. And so I'll never forget his name, Alan Butterfield. He was this bald guy from the National Enquirer. And he was like, listen, if you give me 5 minutes of your time, we're already running this story and we're running it with the pictures we have of you leaving and all the, the witnesses that were there that have already spoken to us. And so we're going to run it and you'll have no control over it. Or you can talk to us for 5 minutes and have a little bit of control about what's going to go into the Enquirer. And that was kind of the tipping point for me. So I was like, okay. Because I knew that I didn't have any sort of sexual relationship with Ben Affleck. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to clear it up then. So I decide to sit down with him and talk to him. And he offers me some money that I won't talk about how much here, but it was good. And so I kind of tell the story of what happened, exactly kind of what I told you. So they would say things though, like, well, do you think Ben Affleck would remember? And I'm like, well, yeah, of course he'll remember. And that came out as Portia said that Ben Affleck had a night he will never forget. Like,
Yeah.
it's insane how they flip the script and
Yeah.
how they sensationalize everything. It turned into him, what I think they used the proper word, fellatio, that he gave me fellatio. Like it was really insane. And so I knew it wasn't really true, but they make you sign this, like, basically you can't speak about it to anyone. And, the club that I worked in was owned by a certain motorcycle gang. So they were mad at me. I couldn't really go back to work. The National Enquirer flew me to Hawaii. They wouldn't let me talk to anyone. They monitored my phone calls. Like, it was an insane situation. It was really crazy. They didn't want anyone from Ben Affleck's team getting a hold of me. They call it protecting their source. And so I literally just had to sit there and let all of this stuff come out in the National Enquirer and just kind of be quiet and let it happen.
You signed an NDA and then they were the only ones with the story because they paid you for it.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. And then what happened? Were you harassed?
By who? No, I wasn't harassed. I was really no, because I was really protected. I couldn't even really, like, they kept me in Hawaii for like 2 months. I don't know why Hawaii, but I think it's just, I think things don't come out there as quickly. I don't know. And then they flew me to LA and they kept me in LA for like a month. And I was a problem. I definitely was, because I was miserable. I was like, I was stripping. I was making a lot of money. I was working in the club with all these movie stars. I was at the top of my game. I was like, so to be kind of plucked out of that and monitored, and I wasn't allowed to talk to my friends in case I said something to them. Like, it was extreme. That's why I say Alan Butterfield, because I remember he would just follow me around and I hated him. I was like, yeah, but I mean, I'll be completely honest. I was also partying my face off at the time. I was doing cocaine. I was drinking to like disastrous levels. I was terrible. I was on a road of self-destruction at the time.
Yep.
And so I look back sometimes and I call it my divine intervention, because I literally was plucked out of that whole scenario, monitored, sent away from all my friends, away from my drug dealers, away from everything. And I, kind of had no choice but to get my shit together. And then I came back to Vancouver a few months later, and, I didn't really get harassed at that point. It was actually quite funny because the owner of the bar was like, he called me one day. I thought they were really mad at me. And he called me one day and he was like, Portia, so we want you back at the club and we want you dancing again. They kept all my costumes. I was like, super naive. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, thank you so much. That is so sweet of you. Like, I'm so glad you're not mad at me. Like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, but I said, but, I think I'm in a better place now and I'm not going to come back to dancing. And he was like, oh no, that wasn't a question. He's like, you are coming back and you will start on Monday and you'll take a pay cut for the legal fees that you owe me. And I was like, okay. So I had to go back to dancing. To kind of pay that off. Yeah, it was crazy. It was a little bit crazy. So it was funny because then
it's like a movie.
when Christian Slater came back in.
Movie.
Yes, I think I should write a book. But Christian Slater came back in, and I was like, "Are you mad at me?" And he was like, "No." He's like, "We're not mad at you. We know how the paparazzi does things." He's like, "But I tried to get a hold of you." He's like, "We would have paid you more to not tell the story." I was like, "Shit." Well, I didn't know how it was going to go down. I had no idea. Like, if they're ruthless, I feel terrible for movie stars and people, that are harassed
Oh,
by
of
the
course. Yeah,
paparazzi.
all
They
the time.
are
Yeah.
freaking ruthless. Yeah.
So J.Lo and Ben Affleck broke up because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I rightfully so. Do you want your fiance licking a random stripper's vag?
Exactly.
No. So even though, you know what I mean? Even though like I got called a home wrecker, I called this I wasn't a home wrecker. I was a stripper. I was giving a private dance. That was my job. I
Yeah.
did not accept the licking of my vag and I ended the dance. And that's what I would have done in the club or outside of the club. So I don't consider myself a home wrecker. I consider him to be creepy at the time. I mean, hopefully, he's changed. We've all changed. That was many, many years ago. But I don't feel bad about that relationship ending because that was not the right thing to do. So,
I'm blown away by this story.
So,
yeah.
so many levels of crazy in there, isn't there? It's like,
Yeah.
what the heck? And then they
Yeah.
put you in jail in Hawaii, pretty much. You know what I mean? Like take you out of your
Jail?
life. What the heck?
Jail was the Moana surf rider. So it was really quite a nice jail. It was like a
Yes.
minimum security anyway.
Pretty one, but like a golden cage, I guess.
But I was so mad. And I was, I was coming off of partying all the time. So I would like purposely rack the hotel room like bill up to like $1,000. And then Alan Butterfield would come over and he'd be like, "You can't keep doing that." Well, let me out of here then. Send me back. I don't want to be here.
Well, how are you doing that? Just bottles of champagne or something? Because that'd be hard to get it up that high.
I found friends. Yeah. And we went to the pool and we put it all on my room.
I love it. Oh my gosh.
Friends.
We found friends.
They had to restrict me.
You're such a fierce, wild, strong, amazing woman. That's so funny.
Oh, thank you.
I have like 1,000 questions. What year was that?
Around 2002, I would say.
Crazy.
Yeah, because then I took a year off, went back to stripping for a little bit, and then opened my studio. So it was close to, it was early 2000s for sure.
Yeah.
So you had to go back and pay this man back for legal fees. You had no choice. You couldn't have just stopped going because they were bikies?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like that's literally like a movie. Somebody in Hollywood listen to this and do this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting. Yeah. And then I was really like mad at that. So I was like, I was angry at that. So I'd get into fights with the girls and I would I'd fall asleep underneath the change room and the DJ, like the makeup mirror, and the DJ would come over and like kick me and be like, "Portia, you were supposed to be on stage 20 minutes ago." Yeah. Okay. So finally he came in and he's like, "Portia, get out of here." And I was like, "Okay."
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
See you later. I go to get my costumes. He's like, "No, just you."
Oh.
I
And
know, and I had so many amazing costumes, but
yeah, I bet. So you were super clean then. You were like sober then or not?
when I went back to dancing,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Because you'd been 3 months of just being in the hotel and there was no Coke in the hotel. There was just champagne.
Yeah, so I was drinking a little bit still, but
Yeah.
nothing like I was doing before. And then I ended up opening my studio and I was still drinking a little bit then. Okay, who am I kidding? Not drinking a lot, but when I did drink, I drank a lot. So, I'd go a long time without drinking. But I remember I opened the studio and I was teaching a class called cardio striptease. And I went to a wedding the night before and I just remember doing shots at the bar. And then so when I had to teach the next day, my mouth was like the Arizona desert and our water cooler was empty. And it was just horrific. And I'm teaching this class and I'm the owner and this is my new studio. And in that moment, I was like, okay, I am not going to drink again until the studio starts like taking off. It took like 3 years to really get the studio going.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so by then, so I never planned on stopping the drinking part of it. But I did. I stopped drinking for like 3 years. And by the time the studio started to go, I was scared to start drinking again. So I actually haven't had a drop of alcohol or drugs or anything else for 23 years. So
That's impressive.
Yeah, that's great.
yeah, life is just so much clearer. And I really, I like being a good example for my children. My husband likes to drink once in a while, but he can manage it. I just could never really manage myself.
Yeah. Just like
Yeah.
all in when you did drink.
That's my personality. I'm all in or I'm all out.
I don't
Yeah.
drink either.
No, great. Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Yeah. I feel like it's just one of the best things I've done in my life. My energy is more balanced. My anxiety is kind of at bay.
yeah.
I think I self-medicated a lot because I had anxiety. So I'd like drink and party, and then my anxiety would go through the roof the next day. But I didn't put two and two together.
And I think
Yeah.
a lot of young people do that, like it is such a readily available substance that you can self-medicate with. And I think that a lot of people get into that habit very young and don't break it.
Yeah.
This is so fascinating. Okay, so, actually, you know what? I'll tell you how I knew about you, because we've never met, but I am the Australian Pole Championships. I don't know if you know that or not, but Crystal Lai, who used to work for you,
Yes.
yeah, she came and she was one of the guest performers, and she taught workshops at the Australian Pole Expo, and she told me all about you. So that's how I knew about you. Yeah, I don't think she poles anymore. I think she had babies and
She has 2 babies. We're still friends to this day. Yeah, me and her and Natasha Wang went like for lunch before I left for Arizona. So, yeah, but she's just momming. She's full on momming. I try and get her to come back all the time, but there's she's not having it.
yeah. Natasha was my very first ever guest performer at the Australian Pole Championships, the very first one I ever ran. So they were both with you. So this is how intertwined this pole community is, It's
Right?
big, but it's small.
It is. It is. Yeah. I mean, I at one point I had an opportunity to come and dance in Adelaide,
Oh,
and I think it was called Crazy Horse, and it was really quite famous at the time. But I didn't want to get on a plane for I don't know how many hours it takes to go from Canada to Australia.
It's the longest flight path that exists.
I think so.
It's like 3 days. It is so long.
Yeah, and that's why I said no. So I'm glad Crystal went though and talked about me. Yay.
yeah, she did. She told me all about you and your studios, and because you taught her all her tricks.
I did.
So I said to her, "How do you know all of these tricks?" And she's like, "Tammy taught me them."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we knew about you.
Oh, yay. Yay, I love that. I love it, because I literally I feel very honored like that you're even having me today because I've never ever put a lot of energy into like trying to make myself known on social media or anything. I really at one point in my life I kind of had to decide what I wanted to do, and for me I wanted the energy to go into my studios. It's the studios that feed my family, and I just didn't care as much about trying to influence anyone or be known online. I was like, I'm just gonna stay in my own zone and make money at the studios and be successful as a business person is kind of what I decided. Yeah.
Well, it's a big transition, isn't it, from being a dancer to owning these businesses. It's like it's a huge transition, and you don't really know how to be a business person if you've never done it before. So you have to focus on it, otherwise it won't succeed.
Yeah, it's funny. And it's true because I think that, to be honest, I think a lot of the skills I learned dancing actually nicely transitioned over to being a business person because I had, when I was a dancer, I had massive shows. So I knew the more I put into it, the more I would get out of it. I had keychains, I had t-shirts with like my picture on them. I had mouse pads. I really marketed myself.
Wow.
And so I was one of the highest paid strippers like in Vancouver because I marketed myself properly. I knew the more I put in, the more I would get out. And I had a lot of patience because I dealt with drunk guys on a regular basis. So I learned a lot of patience. And I really think that it actually did kind of, a lot of things did carry over because I don't, I was never good with authority. And that's why I kind of became a stripper in the first place. I love the idea that I could control my own schedule and where I went and how I did that. And so I think that actually fits nicely into being an entrepreneur because you work so hard as an entrepreneur. You really do. You are never off, but you still control kind of, the important things. I can still be there for my kids, graduations from their elementary schools, and I can still volunteer at the school, and you still have control over that. And so, I think that's what does kind of fall over nicely from being in the stripping industry to being an entrepreneur. We're artists and we're creative, and yeah.
It's actually surprising, isn't it, once you go from one career to the next, how little bits from one career can help you with the next.
Absolutely. And for me, I felt like because I was a stripper, like it was a very hostile environment back in 2003, 2004, when I was trying to convince people to come to my studio. Um, people were like, "Oh, why would I learn pole dance? I don't want to be a stripper." And so I really had to it's a very interesting, actually, the whole circle, because I had to pull out all of the eroticism out of my classes in the beginning. And that's how I made because I started teaching at the university, that's how I came up with Pull 101, Pull 202, Pull 303, because they were like university courses. So I started very, very technical. I didn't really start with, even my cardio striptease class was literal cardio moves, like good old Jane Fonda. And then for the last part, we would learn like a sexy little routine on the floor. But I really had to pull all of that out. We didn't really start with heels classes. It was very sterile so that I could convince people to come to pole. And that's why I even started the Canadian Pole Fitness Association, because I wanted people to see the athleticism and the art of it. So I've had to pull all of that out. So it's so interesting to see how everything has really come full circle. And now, I mean, at least from what I know, it's really big here, but even in Australia, I think that you like everyone wears heels. It's like, isn't that the main thing for most of the studios in Australia, or not really
Oh,
anymore?
no, we don't.
Okay.
My studio, I own quite a few studios, and in my studios, we have a couple of heels classes, but we don't have a lot out. Most of our classes are not heels, but I think for Felix, most of her classes are heels, so it depends on the studio. Yeah.
We
Okay.
have
Okay.
Yeah.
I know here in Canada, it's even hard to run competitions anymore. Like Amy comes over with PSO, but even that, I think she's like every second year now. But everyone is really like heels, 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 sexy classes, like really, really pushing that side of it, which is really, I mean, it's great because it's full circle, but it's just so funny because I get some grief sometimes about not doing the acknowledgement about like strippers and not doing the hashtag I'm a stripper, or even really, advertising on my website that it's like a stripper owned studio. And it's because I'm still so like, it was so hard back then. I feel like, it's hard to just go all the way back around and now, jump on board with the I'm a stripper movement.
Yeah, and be really forward with it. And like you say, like, you're a mom now as well, and like to how to balance that too. And we like Elle and I always have this discussion, like, does it matter? Like, does striptease really matter in pole dancing? Because there's this, and I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm saying like it's so important, and like we all know where it came from, and you've just, you've told us where it's come from. But I think for the people that we're teaching in class now, like for my students, for example, do I need to push it onto them if they're not curious? If it's not important to them, is it my responsibility to force it down their throat and say like, you need to like strippers now? Because I feel like it's in such a different place now than it was before. And like it's because of the work that you did and the pioneers did to make it mainstream, and that was the goal back then, right? Was to make it mainstream, make it acceptable, make it so that Joe's mom from school can come to a pole dancing class and that's going to be fine. And the reason that we were able to do that is because you did sanitize it so much and you made it accessible. And that, a testament to you and what you did, because we are now in that place where people are now like, we need to tell everyone it's strippers who started it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. There's a studio that opened in Vancouver, and they're really like, oh, strippers welcome. And this is like stripper, and we're going to do all the acknowledgements. And so we kind of get a little bit of pushback. And it's like, I'll get people that know me that are like, but just a second, aren't you like the original stripper that kind of started this in Canada? And I'm like, yeah, but whatever. Doesn't matter. Because like you said, and don't get me wrong, like that's even why I manage the strip bar, because I honor the industry that got me here. Like if it wasn't for the industry, I wouldn't be where I am. So I mean, I have a lot to acknowledge and to contribute to that. And whenever I can, I will hire girls in the industry to teach the erotic classes. But when it comes to our regular classes, I don't think our students care. So I just don't feel like I want to push that down their throat, because I think if anything, it might turn some of them off. And that might be kind of controversial, because people are like, yes, but they need to know. But do they really need to know? I don't know if they really need to know.
No. Oh, honestly, like, look, when I started in 2008, and there was no acknowledgement of stripping. We didn't even know that, you know, some of the dancers came from that. We had no idea. We just knew it was a little bit controversial. And, you know, I was a mum of 3 little kids at a private school, and we're like, oh, should we try this? I don't know. You get a good body from it. That's literally all I cared about. That's literally all I cared about. But if I had walked into a class where they were all wearing heels, they were all wearing G-bangers, I would have walked straight back out. There's no way, because I am the prude. I'm not the nude, I'm the prude, right? So I would have literally gone, it ain't for me, and gone. But most people that come into our studios are like me. Most are, you know, they haven't seen that side of it. We just want to come in, look good, do some cool tricks, have fun in class. So that's really what it is about for most people who are going into a pole class.
And to play devil's advocate, like if somebody came in and was like, "Oh, you're a dirty stripper," I would give them a mouthful, and I would tell them that, you know, you can't judge someone by their occupation. I'm not saying that I'd stick up for people who put strippers down. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
Because that's so far removed from who I am, my life experience, and how I feel. But yeah, there is this thing right now in pole dancing that we've talked about on a few episodes now, where there is a divide within our community when we're talking about, and I think it's broader than what we're talking about, but it's there seems to be a divide between strippers and who pole dance and somebody else. Like there's a enemy there. I'm not 100% sure who it is, but there is a little debate going backwards and forwards, and sometimes it does get quite heated.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's, you know, and that's why I think I love that, like the golden era, you know, when Felix, you showed up on scene, and Janine, and everybody was just so excited, you know, no one had these really like polarizing opinions that needed to, like, you know, have these fights over things like the word exotic, or, you know, that was a big one for me, because for me, you know, because I was a stripper back then, you know, there was no pole studios, there was no nothing. So it was really, really frowned upon, even more than it is now. So, you know, we'd go to get a mortgage or apply for an apartment or whatever, and always they're going to ask our occupation. And so we used the term exotic dancer because it watered it down for us, so that when we applied for things, like stripper was just like, ugh, like that was like just such a sharp term. And so everyone back then, we all called ourselves exotic dancers, right? And so whatever, I'm not going to fight with people online. I'll just call it something else. We're good. But, you know, just the level of stuff that just continues to come up within the pole community really kind of I don't know, like I feel like everybody was so united, everybody was so excited, everybody was just happy, everybody was like learning and supportive, and that's what we want for our community, right? We just want to be, you know, happy and love each other and support and learn new moves and train together. And there is just this whole side of it that has just gone a whole different direction.
Yeah. And it's sad. I don't think it's necessary. And I just think that we should all be supporting of each other. We can't grow as a community if we don't support each other. There is no way that we can grow as a community. And pole has grown so much. And I don't know about what it's like there, but it's slowing down in a lot of places. We've spoken to a lot of people around the world, and it is slowing down. So things like the in-house fighting is not helping us. We want our people to come into the studio and just have fun and learn the love of pole. And then when we go to competitions, let's just all support each other and just be kind. Like, just be kind and have fun and let our people have fun, and no agendas need to be pushed. I don't know why they need to be.
No, it's really it's tough as a business owner.
Yes.
And I'm a part of this group actually, where there's a lot of key people in the industry, and we meet. It's almost like a support group because it's so hard. Like, I mean, I had a situation, and when the whole DEI came in, and again, it's going to be a sensitive topic, and I'm sure I'll insult somebody, but here we go. So, and this Black woman, she emailed and she was like, I don't feel comfortable coming to your studio because you have no Black instructors. And I was like, like, what do I even do with that? I was like, my automatic reaction was to be like, this is Vancouver. Like, there's hardly any Black people here. But at the same time, when I opened back in like 2004, I had a Black instructor because I would never hire someone based on their skin color, but that's not what she wanted to hear. Like, that is going to be the worst thing I could probably say to her in that moment. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to sit with this, and I'm going to do, something that I can be proud of when I respond to her. So what I did is I decided to give out scholarships, right? So DEI scholarships for people of color, marginalized groups, and I gave out a shitload of scholarships. And all that did was bring in a whole bunch of people that couldn't really afford classes, and they complained and they were unhappy, and there was nothing I could do to make them happy. And they just wanted more, more, more. And I cut the scholarship program off, and I was like, that was a terrible experiment.
Yeah.
So, it was just kind of a lesson to just, stay true to our roots, which is exactly what you said, which is like, you know what? I will continue to just, we were the original safe space. We never cared, I'm not going to tokenize people and hire someone so that we can appear to be a certain way, hire people based on their ability.
Yes.
I always have. I don't, and so I feel like you almost have to be racist to not be racist. It was just a very confusing time, and very, very confusing coming from that golden era where like none of these things were issues. We all just came together for the same reason. Nobody cared. Everybody just wanted to poll.
Yeah. Can we get back there?
It was so excited to dance. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But sadly, Elizabeth, you're right. Like, it slowed down a lot in Canada. And it's like, I hope that it will come back around. I don't know. Canada, like I said, has a lot of issues. We are like one of the only countries right now in a recession. So, I mean, I'm hoping it's stuff like that's going on, and not that we're losing interest.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
Yeah, look, the cost of living is shocking here as well. You'll go to the shop here and a block of chocolate's $10. It's like, when did that happen? Like, it's insane. I actually had a student last week, and she said to me she forgot her pole shorts. So she couldn't come to class. She had to go back. And we've got a massive pole shop there, like a huge pole shop. I said, why did you just buy a pair of shorts? And she said to me, I had $3 left in my bank account. I do 2 classes a week. I can't afford to do 2 classes a week, but that's the only thing that makes me happy. So I spend any spare cent I've got on doing the 2 classes. But she goes, I couldn't afford to buy a pair of shorts, so I had to go home and then miss that class. And I was just like, oh my God, you know what I mean? It's like, first of all, thank you so much for spending your spare money on us, and I'm so happy that we're at your happy place that that you love going to. But that just goes to show how hard it is for people to come to our classes. We're not something that people need to do. Pole dancing is not something that anyone needs to do. It's something that people do for the love of it. And because of how expensive the world is right now, people are scraping up their pennies to come to it. I think it's important, we're all studio owners, for us to give people the best possible experience to keep them coming. But people just can't afford it. I think that's just the way it is. And if there's in-house fighting, if I was to see something online, see pole dancing against this community, that community, then, or maybe I could just go to a Pilates class and that'd be more fun. Let's just go to a Pilates class. I would go to the Pilates class. You know what I mean? There's not going to be any fighting at Pilates. So we need to come together and make this a fun, safe space. If we are fighting with each other, that is not safe. That helps none of us.
No, it's really true. And it's comforting to know that, that that is probably economy that it's affecting all of us. Because I would hate to think that people are just getting less interested in pole. I don't think that's the case, but yeah, it's true. And I think Australia and we're all part of the Commonwealth, right? So I think, and it's one of the reasons we came over to the US because, regardless of whether you like who's running this country or not, the fact remains that the economy is much stronger than it is in Canada and in Australia.
I don't think it's pole that is losing momentum. I think it's broader than that. It's across all fitness industry. You see the same sort of trends, like people are pulling back and with cost of living and everything. So I think that, naturally, I think 20 years ago would have been our boom when there was like the curiosity factor and like our huge growth factor. So I think it is natural to expect that it's not growing in the way that it used to. But I think that we've established ourselves as part of the mainstream enough that that we're here for good. That's my decision on that matter.
Oh, I agree. I absolutely agree. Yeah, we just opened up a licensed location in a massive gym. So there's just so many things showing that it's just becoming more mainstream and more mainstream.
Yeah.
There's still obstacles that we're always going to face, but I think that, I think it's just going to continue to be mainstream and accepted and yeah. And so I think that's fantastic just to be able to say that because I was there in the very beginning, just to be able, because it was the whole purpose. So just to be able to say that actually feels great.
Yeah. And there's so many, like there's a pole studio down the road from me that's in a mainstream gym. Like it exists within the gym. And I feel like it's so different now to how it was back in the day when we were like, no, we are legitimate and we are actually really good. Look at us. Don't judge us. Like it's such a different world now to what it was. So thank you for doing that at the beginning.
Yeah, I was reckless. That's all. Things worked out.
But with a cause. You
could have gone many different ways.
Is there anything else that you want to say?
No, I don't think so. I think I've said a lot. I tend to talk a lot. So
that was fantastic.
Yeah. So no, I'm great. Thank you for having me. Thank you for, giving me a voice and letting me talk about the history. And I'm very passionate about that, clearing that up.
Oh my goodness. Look, if we have any follow-up questions, I'd love to have you back because it was so enlightening and so interesting to hear like from your experience and like just to like live a little bit through your eyes. It was such an experience. So thank you so much for spending the time with us. That's been so fun.
Yeah, I was looking forward to it. Thank you.
Tammy, thank you so much for spending time with us. That was so much fun, and I'm sure I'm going to think of 10,000 things I want to ask you as soon as we log off. Thanks for being here, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you at the next one. Bye.
Bye.